All right, I want to welcome Sarah. Not to put you on the spot, Sarah, but if you are able to unmute yourself and maybe come on camera, we've just done a round of introductions. If you're able to say hi and what co-op. So go ahead and let's go ahead and open the slide deck. And where we're at right now, if anyone does want me to share my screen or Fisher at any point, let us know. We like the faces, the gallery, so we can see you and react and all of that. Pretend like we are in the same space. There are, so slide number 2 is our agenda. And we are we're almost concluding the item number 1, which is we're setting our purpose. We're talking about why we're here, and we're welcoming us all into this space. After that, right after this, I'll be passing it to Fisher and they'll lead us through our first activity, which is harvesting questions. So of course, we're here in the context of having financial questions about our finances. It might be questions about our budgets. It might be questions about our projections, our cash flow, or maybe our business strategy even. We want to know what your questions are right now so we can best address them in the subsequent training session and also our consulting sessions. So we'll also have a break, and then we'll do a couple other small group activities to talk about definitions of success and financial and organizational success, again, to inform our work together moving forward, and then assessing where we're at right now. So as Carolyn mentioned at the top of our session today, we started these conversations about doing this work together almost about a year ago. And so much has changed, so much has happened. And so we want to just get a lay of the land from your perspective and move us forward from there. So are there any questions about the overall agenda for today or what we're doing? Okay, great. So our goals, just a little bit more about what we're doing, why we're here, are on slide number 3. If you're able to follow along, I will read them aloud. We are well underway in our first goal, number 1, which is getting to know each other. So this is going to be a sort of a cohort space. You all are here today as a cohort that may have similar questions, may also have overlapping skill sets in addition to questions and learning edges. So we want to use that to the best of our ability to support one another. We are not the only experts in the room by any means, right? So we want to be able to hone the skills and gather the questions that we have in common and use them to be as successful as possible in the work we're doing together. In order to do that, we're going to share about our co-ops. So even though this meeting is being recorded, it's not going to be shared. This is just so that we can have a sort of continuity and reference point. Will not be shared outside of our cohort space or outside of our organizations. And also the recording, just so you all know, when we are in small breakout rooms, does not continue. It doesn't record the small groups. So for better or for worse, right? We are not able to document what happens in the small group work, except for what we put on the slides. And like I said before, the third learning goal is that we understand what questions and skills we're bringing into this space and that we create some synergy around that. Any questions at this point before I turn it over to Fisher for our first activity? Cool. Open invitation to come off mute, to come on mic, say your questions, say your comments at any point. This is not a webinar, so we love to be in conversation with you all. So open invitation, and of course, if you need to, step away, that's totally fine. I tend to things that are coming up, emergent stuff happens. If you do have a chance to let us know in the chat, like Barbara just did, that stepping away, but she's coming right back. That'll help us so that we know, who's here and what we can do with that. So with that, I'll just pass it over to you, Fisher. Thanks.
Thank you so much. First of all, congratulations everyone for still being here. I was just thinking about that piece with Oh, we started planning this, a while ago, and it's been economically, financially, business running wise, just a wild time. So congrats to y'all who are making it through, shifting things, changing things, being resilient, being resourceful, being brilliant. Just want to really acknowledge and start that off that way. And also just thanks for sharing this time with us. It's also clear from the check-ins, all of you play really important major day-to-day roles in the organizations and the work, and being in the food business means that it doesn't stop and you don't get a lot of downtime or time off because people eat all the time. So again, just thanks for being here and thank you for that. So the first thing we're gonna do is, and I'm gonna actually share my screen just to sort of, what's the word, demonstrate, that is the word, what we're gonna be doing. So in slide 5, there are all these little boxes that look like little sticky notes. And what we're gonna do is just take a few minutes to, you can just click, oh, if I'm in share mode, I can't do that. You're just gonna click in there and type your question. And I will give you a little more directions than that. But that is the physical gist of what is gonna happen, is we're gonna spend a little time and people get to, figure out how to not write over each other. And the questions that we're, really here about are financial based. It does not mean it has to be a math question or an arithmetic question. But really what we want to know is what's on your mind and what sort of general topics are you wanting and looking for support from this group. And again, this is sort of us as the facilitators coming in and not knowing too much of where y'all are at, and trying to get a sense of who's in similar places, what's the topic and content, and yeah, so they can be specific and they can be more topic oriented. I say folks are in there, so I'm going to stop talking. I'll give y'all
Just one question, Fisher.
Oh yeah.
What are the stars for?
Oh, we're going to get to that in a second.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Jumping
or actually, ahead. I'm confident that y'all can multitask. So thank you, Annie. If you see that someone has written a question that you also have as a question, you can come down here and sort of hover in this star cache corner and grab a star and just drag it over and put it on one of the sticky notes. It'll save us a little bit of space, and then it also helps us know, oh, multiple people are interested in that topic.
Hot topics.
Yes. So what I'll do is give us about, where are we at? Maybe we'll check in around 2 minutes of thinking of your questions, typing them into the sticky notes, and then we'll have about a minute or 2 to put stars on. Are there questions or technical difficulties getting in and making it happen? Great. I'm just going to hang out. I'm just going to name that there's a sticky note in the bottom left that says no specific questions, just a lot of curiosity. It already has a star. Well done. Y'all are doing such a great job changing the sizes of the sticky notes so they work. Great. Let's take another minute. And if you haven't started looking around to see what other people's questions are and move some stars around, go for it. And sometimes when you drag them, they kind of stop being a star and they become a little bit of a blob. I think that's totally fine. We get, the meaning of it is a +1. Our time together is not about, minutia of Google slide manipulation. That's a different workshop. I don't lead that one.
I love this. Does it make a difference on how you calculate EBITDA And then the question is, what is ABITA? Let's start that. Yeah, that got a blob. I'm trying to start it too. Okay, cool. Love it. This is great. Yeah, I'm noticing lots of questions about like nitty gritty nuts and bolts, right? Managing QuickBooks, entering data, and then also sharing and like bookkeeping questions, right? Then also sort of presentation of information. So sharing financial information with others, particularly you know, to the board or to staff, and with varying levels of you know, of ability to read and interpret financial statements. Great. Definitions, shared vocabulary, some operations, and then also, of course, cash flow. That was one thing that we definitely talked about with Carolyn and CFNE moving into this engagement, is to say that knowing that there were lots of questions about cash flow. So excited to see that those are still, there are still questions, and also we've made it here to this point.
I'm going to do a quick check-in on moving forward from here. If you feel like you have enough of the big topic questions, right? Again, we do have a confined amount of time for our sort of big group stuff and our follow-up consulting stuff. So this looks like a manageable amount of information, knowing that some of these are going to be grouped together. If you feel like you have your questions well represented up there, feel free to very obviously place your finger somewhere on or in the vicinity of your face that makes it obvious that you are ready to move on. This is my favorite moment of, you can still choose to be professional looking while do this or not, which is great. All right, so with that, we are gonna, this is great. This is honestly just like a little, you know, I would say 50% for y'all to see what other folks' questions are and to get a sense of what other, you know, where other folks are in the room, and also very helpful for us to be able to take this, manipulate the questions into more categorical information to figure out what we can best do to serve folks moving forward. So thank you for letting us very effectively and efficiently get so many questions out into the open and understand what's rising to the top. With that, we're gonna have our break, and then we'll come back. And just so you all know, sneak preview, coming back after break, we're gonna be doing 2 different small group exercises. So getting ready to get your vocals, your sharing with each other on. This was a nice, quiet sharing activity. And when we come back, we're gonna put y'all in small groups with some of the remaining questions. So we'll do a 5-minute break. I have 44 after the hour, so we'll come back at 49 after the hour.
See you in 5.
Thanks, everyone. And
hi, Zizi, welcome back. So the next thing that we're going to do is that the activity starts, the prompt for the activity is on slide 6. So if you want to jump there so that you can get a visual of the prompt is, so now what we're going to do is we're going to think about success. And the reason why we're doing this is because at our curriculum, our budgeting and financial planning curriculum at ABC is always centered around multiple definitions of success. So we can think about like we think about success in terms of financial sustainability, but let's be really specific about that. What does that mean? Does that mean that we are turning a profit? Does that mean that we have positive retained earnings on our balance sheet? Does that mean that we have healthy cash flow? Whatever that means to you, that's what we're looking for. So we also measure success based on values. So what values do we bring in? Like, what values do you bring into your workplace? So as co-ops, we have cooperative values, of course, but we also want to know, when you think about the success of your co-op, what values do you bring into it, and how do you measure up, when you're looking at your co-op's operations and financial health, how does that interact with your values? How do we know that we're successful, right, is another way of phrasing that question. Thinking not only about numbers and the bottom line and finances, but also about values. How are we living up to those values? So those factors we're asking you to name, and we're asking you to name them specifically on the subsequent slides. So slides number 7 through 12. There should be one for each co-op. If we miscounted, you'll let us know and we'll make another slide, or we'll just not use one if we have extra. So some of y'all are already getting started. I love this. If you have not already done so and you are working in a slide, just the little banner across the top is for your name. So please have one slide per co-op. Dave and Vetch, I'm going to put you in a breakout room so that you can talk amongst yourselves while you're working, and everyone else will be working on their own co-ops. And Taylor and Sandy, I could put you in a breakout room, but since you're in the same room, I figured that it would probably be just the same to not do that, but you can let me know what you prefer.
I prefer to be in a separate room.
Okay.
Just teasing. No, it's fine. We're fine.
So dry. Okay, great. So Dave and Vetch, I'll put you in a breakout room. You can work together on your own slide. Everyone else will be working on one individual slide. Does anyone have any questions or clarifications that are needed? Okay, we're going to do this for about 10 minutes and I'm check in and see where you're at. We have some more time if you need more time, but we'll start with 10 minutes. All right, so here we go. All right. Okay, welcome back. See, we're all pretty much wrapped up here. What I'd like us to do now is just take a moment and just go through, just take a glance at what other folks put on their slides and see if there are any kind of common ground, see if there are any commonalities here. So what factors do we have in common? And also feel free to pull out, things that might be different. I'm seeing a lot of common ground here, so I'd love to lift up those commonalities, and we'll be coming back to these as well, these definitions of success, as we dig deeper into each co-op's own financial statements. So just take a moment, and as you notice anything, feel free to take yourself off mute and share what you're noticing. You'd also, if it's more comfortable for you, like to share in the chat, that's also fine. And we will amplify by reading the chat. So right now the ask is just go through the other slides, what other co-ops have been working on, and share any noticings. What do you notice? What do you have in common? What might be different? Who's feeling brave and like to kick us off with something that they noticed?
I guess I can do the obvious one. I think everyone wants to have enough money to run their programming, positive cash flow and all that.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Totally. Absolutely. Seeing Vetch sharing in the chat that they noticed Something in common would be a staff that feels completely invested and integral to the functioning and success of the co-op. Great, thanks. What else have you noticed? I'll share one or two more. Great, living wage. Thanks, Sarah. Anything you'd like to share, Fisher, that you're noticing common threads or things that are different?
Sure. One thing I noticed that was always exciting for me is there's a few maintaining and supporting local farmers and food producers. So being part of a local sustainable ecosystem and agriculture system was exciting. I would say, I'm not sure if I saw this, or I definitely didn't see this. I did see this in some, but not all, is benefits. And I just like to name that, especially in the food industry, because I think, at least when I participated and worked in the food industry, it was not at co-ops, and it was not seen as a career long-term place where benefits will be offered. And so I love that folks are mentioning that and really understanding the role that that plays in the longevity of your workers and the dignity of the jobs and things like that. So I'm gonna throw that in there. And then I did just see in the chat broader community support as something that was in common.
Great, thanks.
Can I chime in?
Please.
One of the things that I look at when I look at success, and when you're talking about success is measured in different ways. So it's interesting for me to sit in on this because I'm not necessarily the most financially minded person when it comes to business, because there's a difference between what a CFO does and what a role of someone that's a visionary person does for a business. So to me, success, there's two areas of success, one financial, and then it's also tied to the success that happens in all the other areas of the business, whether we're a community partner, whether we're providing a livable wage. And all of those tie into each other, because the success, you can have not much of a great bottom line because you're meeting all the other metrics of success, because you're paying your employees fairly, because you're providing businesses, you're providing employment to people, you're doing all of these things that you do as a community partner. And because of that, and because of trying to moderate your prices, trying to be the best community partner you can, you're not necessarily going to have great financial success, because what you need to have is an infinite mindset and long-term sustainability. So you can't do things over and over that are going to put you out of business. But the idea of the co-op being in business is much more than a corporation being in business that's answering to its shareholders. Even though we have member owners, it's a different dynamic.
Right. That's an excellent point. And thank you for bringing it together from the beginning of the framework of this exercise, tying it back and circling back to that, right? We're talking about multiple definitions of success. And what Fisher and I are here to do is support the integration of these varying different ways of measuring success into your financial and business planning. Right? So while some of these things are extremely measurable, like we can put, and by that I mean like we can put a dollar and cent value on benefits, right? Plug it into our spreadsheet, see what happens, right? Some of these are a little bit harder. And like Taylor was mentioning, there is a tension between providing, providing benefits, providing fair wages, also providing, like on the income side, pricing fairly and accessibly so that our community can afford to buy our products or buy our services, and then you end up with something that might be a tighter bottom line. We're not just looking to maximize profits. So thinking about that tension and how we make that work for the sustainability of our business, of our co-op, and also for the sustainability of our relationships in our community, and for the people that work and own the business. So we're here to support all of that work. And we're actually, because some of us that have those vision skills and are maybe community leaders, might like hate spreadsheets and might not have not be familiar with QuickBooks or those skills. So we're here to bridge those gaps and bring us together, bring those sets of skills together. If we don't, because I imagine all of us are learning in one of or both of those ways, right? So that's perfect framework. And we're going to take it into our next thing, where we're actually going to talk about some challenges and some successes that we're experiencing. And we're going to put all of those things together in our next session together as a group, as a cohort, when we look at our financial statements and we think about our successes and our challenges before we move into our sort of one-on-one nuts and bolts consulting sessions. So thank you so much for tying that into our overall framework and for naming that tension, right? That's real, and we experience that all the time ourselves at ABC and our co-op, and also with our clients and the folks that we work with. So Fisher, I'd love to pass it to you.
Yeah, I think I just like to commend y'all. I think one thing that is worth noting is when you brought in your sense of success beyond just financial, you have made your job harder and more complicated. So congratulations, you are doing well and you are doing right by the world and the people in your community. And it is more difficult because there are more tools to be only financially successful than there are tools out there to hit many metrics. And we're here to support creating more of those tools. So just acknowledging it's a little bit harder, and we're here for you. So for our last activity, we want to know and be able to sort of glean information from y'all on what specifically is happening in each of your co-ops. What are you currently, and again, this is financially minded, but does not need to always include numbers, right? So if you're experiencing, something that around like retention of staff, that might not necessarily be a financial specific thing, or it might not only be financial, but it obviously has financial implications and affects your ability to run and manage your co-op, whether it's because you're constantly trying to hire, or you're putting out HR fires, or you're understaffed, whatever it might be. So acknowledging that when we're asking, what are you currently experiencing, maybe be both broad and specific in the same way. And then with what you're experiencing, what are your strengths and what are your challenges? And what we're going to do for this is, in the same way that we set up before, each co-op is going to have a slide. And what we're actually going to do is break you out into pairs so you can sort of mini interview somebody else. You can mini interview another co-op. And just gonna have a transparency moment. Annie, are you prepping the breakout rooms, or would you like me to do that?
I was just jumping in to do it right now. So if we need, sure thing. Sorry, I'll do this. I don't need to narrate what I'm doing. I'm doing it now.
Great, thanks. Questions on that? So we'll give you about 8 minutes, which will be around 4 minutes a person, and naming some of the bigger pieces, what you're experiencing. Also, please remember to share the joys. I know that sometimes when we get into these financial conversations, it's stress, and to remember that maybe one of the things you're experiencing is something really great and positive, and don't be afraid to share that. Questions on our small group time?
Yes, I'm again a little confused. Do you want us to be filling out these sheets now before we get together with our or with the other person?
Right. So you're going to be in pairs. So Jenny, if you and I were in a small group room together, I would find, and they're in alphabetical order. So I believe your first. Slides 18 is Dorchester. And I'd say, Jenny, let's spend 4 minutes talking about you and your co-op. And you're going to tell me things. And I, as the listener, am going to type in the notes from what you're sharing.
Okay.
And then we'll do a little 4-minute switch.
Thank you. That was clear.
Thank you for asking and helping me make it more clear. Deeply appreciated. And Annie, whenever you're ready.
Are we
Thank you
good?
for-
Any
I
other
believe so.
questions? Okay, great. Here we go. Opening rooms.
Hello, hello. Hello.
Hi, Issa.
Hey, I'm away from my iPad
Oh, okay,
Okay.
for just a minute.
gotcha.
Who am I talking to?
You're still in the big group.
Oh, okay.
Are you able to jump into jump back to your iPad, or do you want me to assign? I can take the Dave who is in your group and I can put him in another room if you're not able to come back to
Yeah,
your
that's
iPad.
possible. I mean, I can speak right now. I just can't type. I just need a few minutes before I can go type.
Gotcha. Okay, Corinne, are you able to join your breakout room? It looks like she might be frozen, actually.
Yeah, I think that.
Okay, I was gonna see if maybe the two of them wanted to interview each other. Let me just I'm just gonna move Dave over to another room.
Great, thank you.
I'll do that. And then Issa, if you wanna